Hi, I'm back. Now, I say that as if someone's been watching this channel the whole time while I've been gone. But as I said at the end of the last one, this is the very rare thing where we're doing two things this Friday. This isn't the big man we dram per se, but this is just me hanging out with my friend and colleague, Nate. So hold on one second. I'm going to bring him in. Hey.
Hello, everybody.
It's funny. It's pretty late in the UK. I know that Keith Junkin was going to join us, but it's not join you and I, but watch. But I mean, it's 11:30 there, so we'll see. We'll see if he stayed up. So, in case anyone is accidentally tuning into this and doesn't know why they're tuning into this, Nate and I are lucky enough to be in possession of Take One and Take Two. These are the single cask bottlings they're not single casks, they're Single Cask Nation bottlings. They're actually multiple casks that we did in collaboration with our friends at the Single Cask Nation. These are literally the same whiskey from different casks. They're both 6 casks from the same Island Distillery. And the interesting thing about both of them is 5 of the casks are unpeated and 1 is peated. And the first one was phenomenal, which has been nicknamed Wolf Island. There we go again. I'm having problems with my focus. There we go. But then the second one is Take Two. There we go. My camera just wants to focus all over the place. But in any case, both are, by the way, Keith is here. I'm here and all wolf drammed up. Take One at the moment. Keith, as you know, I'm coming to Scotland in June, and I think a Take Two might make its way your way. So without further ado, I'm going to pour this. I haven't poured this yet. Have you poured yours?
I poured mine already. Yes.
Oh, well, you're very efficient. So it's funny. I have tried both of these whiskeys already, but not side by side. Have you done them side by side yet?
I held off, but I have nice. I have a really good memory on. I've had a lot of the one, obviously, over the last was it year and a half that we've had a year and a half nearly that we've since it's been out. So even if I know the taste profile of that one very, very well at this point, but we did have the 2 just a little bit. And, I could tell even then that there was, there's going to be some interesting differences between the 2.
Wow, they're very similar on the nose, like to the point that I wouldn't, if they were presented to me as the same thing, I don't think I would notice. Oh, it's doing that thing again. It just took you off. I just lost your image, but now you're back. This is fun. It was doing this to me earlier.
Yeah, they are very similar on the nose. There might be a hint of a difference, but it's, unless you were looking for it, I don't think you would find it.
If anything, Take One is a tiny bit sweeter on the nose. Take Two is a little stodgier.
Yeah, right, I would agree with that.
Man, I got to tell you, I love these whiskeys. I only tasted one so far. Keith has asked. Yes, Keith, they are. They're from the same Island Distillery. And they're from the same. It was actually 12 casks that were purchased by Single Cask Nation, and they had this idea of what to do. And the reason that they thought it would appeal to us is because they really they knew we were interested in really creative experimentation, and thought that this was a great example of it.
So obviously, a lot of people have done side by side of casks from single casks from the same distillery, everything the same, even almost literally in the same stored at the same time and everything, almost the same cask numbers. But this actually takes, a blend of casks at each of them, so it takes that to another level.
Absolutely. And I just tasted 2. And you know what I would say? I would say it's the same. My take on it is the same as the nose, which is I would say the other one is a little bit. The second one, the first one's a little bit sweeter. And since there's the slightest hint of peat in this, I get the peat more in the second one.
Yeah, I find the second one is a little, perhaps even a little smoother. I get more vanilla in the second one, which in the first I get more of like a lemon verbena, like a little to it. There's a bit more. I think you can definitely see a different a cask mellowing effect in the second one, which is a little less you don't see in the first. It's got a bit more fruit to it versus that kind of lemon, and even in the back end, I get a little more ash on number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's a question. I don't have the answer, but considering these are the same batch of casks that were distilled roughly the same time, it stands to reason that the second one is actually slightly older. It's a non-age statement whiskey, but that the second one is older because it was bottled a year later. And that would, I think, that would account for that. It is a slightly mellower. I mean, I will say this: they're similar enough. If this were a store-bought brand and I bought a bottle a year later, I wouldn't notice.
I agree. I mean, yeah, I would. Assuming yeah, definitely. If you weren't doing them side by side, and you would agree, obviously, we all know that while a store-bought brand tries to make it consistent over time, there are still variations, and that's well within the parameters, I think, of that. But that's a really good point. That yes, they were done a year later, and that is even with 1 year, it's amazing what maybe that extra mellow. I mean, obviously, it could some of it, the specifics of the cask, but just 1 year, a little bit of a difference, just the aging does.
Yeah. And they're both 48.8. They're both 48.8% ABV. And it's funny. I talked to Jason yesterday at Single Cask Nation, and I should have asked him, is that a coincidence or was this liquored down a bit? Mark Pruitt wrote here that that reminds him of the classic laddie, slight variations. I completely understand that. I was actually going to say that because a couple years ago, Mark, I did an A/B test of classic laddie that Jim Keeman made and the laddie that Adam Hannett made. And they were like 4 years apart, and they were different. They weren't different enough that I would have recognized them as separate expressions, but they were definitely different.
I find after I added a couple of drops of water, they're even more similar.
I think that I put the exact same amount of water in both, trying to minimize as many variants as I can, and I think that the water knocked the nose down on the second one more.
Agreed.
I always feel like a mad scientist or something. I should have a lab coat on when I'm doing this.
Even a couple drops of water mellows. You go.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say even a couple drops of water in number 1, opens it up a little. While in number 2, I think it actually brings out a little bit more of the fruit character. This is why I think they come cooler. Like that actually has different effect on each, but that effect actually adds to the similarity. It takes them each in the opposite direction from where the other one is. It's just a couple drops.
Absolutely. It's funny. One of the things that we had that we liked about this right from the get-go was that it was really, really sophisticated. It had a lot going on, but it was also very drinkable at the same time. I certainly find that true of the second one. It's almost dangerously drinkable, if I'm honest.
Very much so.
You know, it doesn't drink even like 48.8. It drinks mellower than that. So just in case anyone's wondering, this is a retail bottling. Like, we're not selling this through a website or anything. It's sold through all the retail outlets around the country that carry Single Cask Nation. And I've been, you know, the first one won a bunch of awards, and it immediately sold out just about everywhere. But I've been told that there are still some places in the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic retail outlets that have the first one. I don't. I have one more bottle of the first one after this, and that's it. I haven't seen it on the shelf out here in California in a long time. The last bottle I saw on a shelf was in Arizona. I drove through Phoenix in August of last year, and I saw it on a shelf there. And I haven't seen it since. So if you come across one,
ago.
You know,
I saw it about a month ago. At Mission, but not the Glen Oaks one where Take Two was, but the other one in Glendale.
The Glendale Boulevard.
Glasgow.
Well, they told me they were already sold out of Take Two. They said they had Take Two in, and they already sold out of it at that one. It wasn't that they didn't get it; they were already sold. Because I that's closer to me, so I tried to get there first.
The one I got,
I wonder if K&L
was the last one on the shelf. I got the last one on the shelf. I don't know if they had any more in the back, but I got the last one on the shelf for the Take Two.
It's funny that this is a little bit of inside baseball on this, but this is kind of funny. A lot of people, mainly Alphonse, but a lot of people on our team have always referred to the film as Wolf, the Water of Life film. And I never have. I never have. I've always resisted it, and only because I always called it TWOL because I could just search for it more easily and create files on my computer. Bit by bit, I've just been losing that battle. Now we've got whiskeys out there that I know that doesn't say on the bottle Wolf Island, but since it's an Island Distillery, that's what Single Cask Nation's always called it, and now that's what I see it listed as places. So now it's Wolf Island. I get it. I get that the acronym is a word, and that's kind of cool, but I've just lost that battle. There we go. I'm trying to share this photo, but here, looking at it, there we go. When I did this middle screen thing, I did it earlier for when I was talking to Petr Pulkert with the game cards, and I designed them to be perfectly split between us, but this is bigger than that. Here's some close-up shots of the bottle in case people come across it. It's funny because literally the only difference is that the Take Two has the Take Two on it, and actually the blue and yellow square is reversed. And you'd have to ask Alphonse and the guys at Single Cask Nation if that was by design or not, or an accident. I think it was by design, actually.
Well, I hadn't noticed that bit before. I mean, obviously I knew about the Take Two, but I had noticed the flip of the two. Exact same run to 1,600 bottles of each. So even with the extra year, I guess we're not talking much of an angel share loss, which is over 1 year shouldn't be. I find I think I see the peat influence a little bit more in number two. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'm really loving the number two.
Yeah, it is incredibly drinkable. That's as you said, I think dangerously drinkable.
So Keith and Guy are saying we need to get some of those bottles over to the UK. on a wholesale level, that's not my decision, but I would agree with you, and that we should. On a personal level, I would, as Keith and I have discussed, I can probably bring you one, Keith, even legally, not just illegally. I can even legally.
Does Keith have number one?
He does. I don't remember who else does. Guy has one, but he doesn't have it yet, which is kind of funny. Mark Pruitt says we should have a tasting party here in Southern California.
I'm good down with that.
I'd be down with that too. I meant to look ahead of time. I don't live in Orange County, so because when the first one came out, High Time in Costa Mesa carried a lot of it. I think they ordered a lot because I remember sharing a photo of like 18 bottles of it on their shelves or something like that. And then when I was actually there, I think they had like one left. But in any case, I definitely think that would be a good idea.
I have 2 bottles of Take One right now left because Deborah bought one for a gift for Christmas and decided not to give it, so I get to keep another one.
Yeah, Mark Pruitt says it's not in their online stock. So did they have Take Two? Do you know? Or I know they had a ton of Take One, but do you know if they had Take Two? I'd be curious to see.
Does K&L carry it? I didn't think to look when I was there yesterday.
Well, I haven't been to K&L in a while, and they carried the first one for sure, and it sold out for sure. So, Jason told me that it performed really, really well, and it's only still Take Two is just kind of still rolling out right now. Because it's imported by Impex, and Impex is San Francisco based. So I know this sounds counterintuitive, but it starts in California and makes its way east. Yes, Keith, there's each of them are 1,600 bottles. They're 1,600 bottling, 6 casks, 1,600 bottles. And all ex-bourbon casks, and which is great. I love sherry bombs and everything, but this whiskey just totally works the way it is, and it really lends itself to the spirit, this island spirit that has like that sort of hint. They both have that kind of salt note, that salinity that you get with.
The only differences between them, obviously, the physical cask, the 6-cask, there's still one peated and the rest not peated, and of course the extra. I guess maybe closer to a year and a half between bottling, because it says summer 2021 and winter 2022. Those are the only differences, are the casks and the extra, slightly extra aging time on Take Two.
It's funny. I asked yesterday when I talked to Jason. I said, "So, are we doing a Take 3? Are we going to tail slate a Take 3?" And he said that. This is the last of this parcel of casks, so there aren't 6 more casks that are vatable.
Did they do single casks with any stuff from the distillery, or is it we really with our 2?
This is all done with the distillery. Yeah. And it's funny because all the island distilleries. And it not quite as much. I get it a little bit with Isla, but not as much as Isla as I do with like Campbellton or Glen Scotia, but also like Tobermory and Lecheg and Arran and Talisker. You really get that kind of salt note, that salinity note, and it's certainly prevalent on this.
Well, there's definitely some in Isla you get the salinity more than others, but
yeah, absolutely. But this definitely has that sort of Arran malt kind of note.
To be fair, I don't think I've hit the salinity higher than anything else than the Waterford, the Roth. I can't say it. I don't remember to say it. That one was heavy salinity.
The Rathclaw?
Yeah, Rathclaw. That one, the salinity on that was insane. Which is, I think, why Deborah was not as huge fan as I am, because it reminded her too much of the sea. I mean, considering the proximity of that particular farm to the ocean, it's not at all surprising when you look at where the various farms are. That was one of the absolute closest, if not the closest, that they had to the ocean, and you could see the effect for sure.
Well, it's funny. I never thought about this before, but I've always been a big fan of sweet and salt together. Like I love like salted caramel stuff, and I like ham and pineapple. And I've always liked that. And I wonder, this is a kind of has that sort of bourbony sweetness to it. And I wonder if that is why this appeals to me so much, because there's that salinity kind of playing in there.
Well, yeah. And then definitely take two, you get the vanilla more that you would get from bourbon. You get that sweetness. And maybe it is that extra year and a half or so of aging, or just a specific cask. I mean, at that narrow level of extra aging is tough to gauge how much of it's the time and how much is it the barrel. But you definitely get that bourbon vanilla effect a lot more in take two than you do in the first version.
It's there's a dryness to take two. It reminds me of like a dry white wine.
I can see that. Yeah.
And Guy is watching us right now and said tail slate.
Hey, Guy.
In case anyone watching this doesn't know what a tail slate is, sometimes when you're making a movie, you know what a slate is. Sometimes it doesn't make sense for logistical reasons or whatever to be able to slate it ahead of time. So what you do is you slate it at the end of the shot before you cut, and you put the slate upside down so an editor knows that's a tail slate and to rewind instead of going forward into that shot. Stunt shots do it a lot because they can't get a slate out in front of whatever the stunt setup is, or sometimes it's just in a documentary, it would be more like someone just starts talking and you haven't slated it, so you just roll, and at the end you tail slate it. So it's the last of something. It's at the end of something. And it would be an easy label to make because we would just turn this upside down and put a 3 on it. The funny story about the take two. The original design we had in mind for the label was to cover the sheep's face entirely with the slate, because that's what you would really do. And then we realized that was only funny if you had take one next to you. If you were never seen this bottle before, now you just see this animal body with a slate, and it doesn't. You don't make any kind of connection. It doesn't, and then if we put the slate off of them entirely, then it's just too busy. It's just a bunch of stuff going on. So I swear to you, in my computer, I have like 25 variations of where the slate should be.
I've got a few of those too. And now that you mentioned that, I recall the discussion where we talked about flipping the colors on the boxes too. We actually had a discussion about that. Forgot about it initially, but we did have a talk when we were talking about the placement of the slate.
Yeah. Well, there you go. These are the very high level conversations that we have.
Usually whiskey
and I think, but I think that the original one was the yellow box on top and the blue box on bottom. Then they switched it for take one, and then Fon switched it back for take two. In any case, I can't imagine that this is super riveting for many people. The yellow box was originally containing the words single malt Scotch whiskey. Please, if anyone finds themselves a bottle of this or gets a bottle of this, let us know what you think of it, because we've yet to hear anyone say anything negative about it. It's just delicious. It's just well-made whiskey. And it's, of course, goes without saying, it's non-chill filtered. It's uncolored. It is distilled, matured, and bottled in Scotland. 1600, undisclosed Island Distillery. Bottled for the Water of Life film in winter of 2022, which we're still in. I guess winter of 23, but whatever.
And if you actually have both of them, we'd love to hear your comparison, your AB.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, post photos in the group, the Facebook group, if you get them, of the two, and your thoughts. I'd love to hear it, because I love doing A/B tests. It brings out some deep nerd level in me. I remember how excited I was to do those two classic laddies. And then one of the other A/B tests I got to do is now, I want to say it was Guy, someone I know when I was in Scotland last time. No, maybe it was two different whiskeys from two different distilleries that were distilled on the exact same day. And they were similar wood type, but different distilleries. Now, look, the day, it doesn't have anything to do with it. So they were very different, but it was still fun. It's just fun to pick that one variable. Yeah. It will not be in duty free, Mark. It doesn't have enough of a footprint to make it to duty free. We can't compete with Diageo and Beam Suntory and Pernod Ricard.
When are you going to Ireland?
He's going there for his anniversary.
Nice.
Very soon.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that.
I would, but look, I would love nothing more than to have one of our whiskeys in a duty free. That'd be cool.
Yeah, Yeah, that takes a hell of a. That takes a lot bigger run than we've done so far.
Yeah. And I think that we are a little ways off from having a duty-free whiskey available. But in any case, I hope you all get a bottle. I hope you all love it. I hope you all tell us what you think of it. And Keith and Guy, stand by. I'm coming. I'll be there in June, and I'll bring some with me because I always have to bring empty tubes with me so I can bring whiskey back home with me. So that's an easy get. So I'm going to go finish the rest of these drams. This is the end of my productivity on Friday. That's for sure.
Yeah, I just have to pick up the younger one from musical practice. So I'm basically I've got some graphic work I should be doing, some animation, but I don't think it's happening. Oh, someone just rang the doorbell. That never happened.
It sounded like a special. It sounded like a special effect. All right, everyone. Well, have a great Friday. I'll see you next week. Guy's going to be here with me next week, and we're going to talk about independent bottling.
Oh, cool.
Talk to you guys soon. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.